In my past life, my husband and my own son personally sent me to a mental institution. Then my husband turned around and married his white moonlight. I endured inhuman abuse, and after death, my ashes were thrown into a filthy ditch. Reborn, I chose to avoid any connection with him. He was dumbfounded. Back then, my father sacrificed himself to save Zainjon's father. My mother also passed away not long after due to overwhelming grief. Before her death, she entrusted me to the Zhong family. Mr. Zhong publicly promised my marriage to Zainjon. To outsiders, the Zhong family values loyalty and repays kindness, and as an orphan girl, I finally had someone to rely on. Living under their roof, I had no choice but to try my best to please them, praying for a place to call home. At first, the Zhong family treated me decently, but after Father Zhong passed away, my status in the Zhong family changed. Mother Zhong treated me much worse than before. After marriage, she even looked down on me for being a housewife, unworthy of her college-educated son. I couldn't help him in his career, only holding him back from progress. In my previous life, 1 month before the college entrance exam, Mother Zhong accidentally broke her leg. To ensure Zainjon could focus entirely on preparing for the exam without any worries, I voluntarily gave up my own college entrance exam and took on the responsibility of caring for my future mother-in-law. As expected, Zainjon lived up to everyone's hopes and was admitted to university. 2 years later, Mr. Zhong was diagnosed with terminal stomach cancer, and it was I who took care of him tirelessly. On his deathbed, Mr. Zhong held my hand and Zainjon's, saying he wouldn't close his eyes until he saw us married. Only after living a second life did I come to understand. Mrs. Zhong had looked down on me from the very beginning, even when she later became hemiplegic and unable to care for herself. She still urged her son to divorce me. It was simply because Zainjon and his white moonlight didn't want to take care of her. After my mother-in-law passed away, Zainjon decisively asked me for a divorce. Even my own son, whom I had raised through hardship, said, "With a mother like you, I'll never be able to hold my head high. You're simply not worthy of my dad. I only want Aunt Young to be my mom." That was when I realized Zainjon's white moonlight, Kira Young, had long since won over even my son. Yet I was completely in the dark. Turns out, every time she used the pretense of childhood friendship to help me with my child, she was actually testing my boundaries, time and time again. I remember that mid-autumn festival. I finished all the housework alone and prepared the meal, but they didn't come back for a long time, so I went to the park to look for them, only to see the 3 of them walking hand in hand, happily together. Zainjon ran into a colleague who asked, "Taking your wife and kid to the park?" Zainjon actually didn't confirm or deny it, just tacitly accepted the assumption. As we were leaving, my son unexpectedly called Kira Young, "Mom, it's time to go home for dinner." To be honest, seeing that scene just made my heart sink. I looked at my outdated clothes and my rough hands, worn out from years of household chores. Then I glanced at Kira Young, radiant with youth, her face blooming with smiles. I couldn't help but feel a pang of inferiority. Just a faded housewife who knows nothing but the kitchen stove. There was already a world of difference between us. My very existence would only bring them shame. That day when I got home, I locked myself in my room and didn't even eat. When Zainjon found out I was angry about this matter, he actually said, "You're being completely unreasonable. The child is young and made a mistake in addressing you, so why didn't you explain? He's just a nodding acquaintance from work. Why should I bother explaining to him? Besides, we were both starving at the time and in a hurry to get home for dinner." I had to admit, he was indeed skilled at making excuses, and I was left speechless. Thinking about it, what he said wasn't entirely unreasonable. Just like that, I forgave the father and son, yet I clearly saw that the family of 3 didn't feel the slightest bit embarrassed about being mistaken. On the contrary, they seemed quite pleased. It felt like a thorn had been driven into my heart, leaving a constant, dull ache. Once or twice, I thought I was overthinking it, but from then on, Kira Young started visiting our home more and more frequently. After Mother Zhong became completely paralyzed, she even came to our house under the guise of being a goddaughter, constantly finding fault with me. "Sis, you're feeding Auntie this kind of food, she's a patient." Her nutrition needs to be balanced. Kira Young picked up the dish I just cooked with a look of disdain and immediately started sowing discord. Sister-in-law, it's getting cold. Time to change auntie's bedding to something thicker. Sister-in-law, brother Zayn is a college graduate. Shouldn't he dress more presentably when going out? Sister-in-law, how could you hit the child? Even if she doesn't say it, I know the patient needs better food, the man should maintain dignity outside, and the children deserve more patience. But where does the money come from? Is there enough time? Do I have that much energy? I have to work while taking care of the whole family all by myself. Even if I was split into 8 pieces, it still wouldn't be enough. I'm busy every day without a break. Sometimes having to finish the remaining work at night when the elderly and children are asleep. Zayn Jean hasn't graduated from university yet and can't help at all. The heavy burden can only be carried by me alone. Kira Young just talks without feeling the pressure. Zayn Jean not only didn't speak up for me, but also echoed Kira Young. Yeah, Kira is right. Mom keeps eating these non-nutritious things. When will she ever get better? Can't you put more effort into taking care of Mom? We college students have our own social engagements and networking. You wouldn't understand even if I explained. In short, we can't be stingy and let people laugh at us. You should pay attention to the way you educate children. Why are you so rough? Where's the money? I glanced at him speechlessly and asked, You're so vulgar, always talking about money, money, money. Brother Zayn, don't talk about sister-in-law like that. After all, she didn't go to college, and her ideological awareness isn't that high. It was clearly Kira Young who started the fight, yet she ended up being the good one. I hadn't even said much when my mother-in-law scolded me. When men are talking, what right do you have to speak? Even my son looked at me with disdain and said, Can't you just save some face for Dad? How could I have a mother as shrewish as you? But don't I deserve some dignity too? I wasn't always a shrew. They pushed me to become this way, time and time again, just as I raised my hand to slap this unfilial child. Kira Young shielded him. He's so young. Sister-in-law, how could you bring yourself to hit him? This is sheer defiance of natural order. He's my own son, yet I'm treated like a stepmother. If it weren't for the indulgence of my mother-in-law and husband, how could she dare to bully me so openly? Unfortunately, after Mrs. Zhong's death, Zayn Jean and Kira Young simply stopped pretending. Zayn Jean said to me, After all these years, the Zhong family has treated you fairly enough. It's a pity our fate has come to an end. Let's get a divorce. My mind was in a daze. It felt as if the entire world had collapsed in an instant. I simply couldn't accept what he said. He thought marrying me was the greatest favor he could bestow upon me, taking care of his seriously ill father, his paralyzed mother, and raising his son through all the hardships, changing diapers and everything. It is the greatest blessing to me. Little did he know. All these years I've been taking care of a paralyzed mother-in-law while enduring her scolding and beating whenever she's slightly displeased. Whenever I tried to complain to him about it, he would accuse me of being ungrateful and making trouble out of nothing all day long. I stared straight at him and asked, What did you say? His eyes seemed to spit fire. Zayn Jean avoided eye contact but repeated, Let's get divorced. All the past memories flooded into my mind in an instant. Zayn Jean and Kira Young had been childhood sweethearts since they were little. If it weren't for my appearance, perhaps he wouldn't have married me at all. So did he ever love me? Was everything just my one-sided devotion? I thought that by relying on his family's kindness and my own compromises, I could move his heart. These years I've been fulfilling filial duties by his bedside for him, helped him raise children, supported him through his education. Human hearts are made of flesh after all. Even a cold stone would have been warmed by now. Zayn Jean was secretly spending romantic moments with his first love behind my back, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Their peaceful and happy life was built upon the burdens I carried. Now that the elderly have passed away and the children have grown up, he actually said he never loved me and wants a divorce. The first time I realized that when people are so angry they're speechless, they burst into laughter. Ha ha ha. My laughter was eerie. Zayn Jean and Wang Kira felt a chill down their spines, not daring to make a sound. Tears streamed down like broken pearls as I laughed, falling from my cheeks and crashing hard onto the ground. Zayn Jean, search your conscience. Aren't you afraid of karma for treating me like this? I had no choice. What a line. Had no choice. I've truly seen through this man. Did I force you to marry me? Did I force you to share a bed with me? Or did I force you to have children with me? If he was so strong-willed, why didn't he resist? If he truly loved Kira Young, why didn't they run away together? If he didn't want to, why didn't he remain chaste? Yet he had none of these, instead taking all the benefits of being with me for granted. I got pregnant just 1 month after we got married. Now that he thinks I'm of no use anymore, he wants to pursue his so-called love. You, Zayn Jean stammered, red-faced and tongue-tied. You're being unreasonable, you shrew. Seeing that he couldn't hold his ground, Kira Young immediately stepped forward. If it weren't for your family pressuring him with gratitude back then, how could Zayn have married you? He never loved you. Why waste the rest of your life clinging to someone who doesn't love you? You only lost a home, but we lost our love. No matter how eloquently you spin your words, you're still a shameless tramp. Blinded by rage, I lashed out without thinking. Slap. Zayn Jean's slap across my face finally woke me up. He didn't change his heart, he just always makes the optimal choice. Zayn Jean has been a selfish person from the very beginning. Back then, I was alone, having to take care of both my partially paralyzed mother-in-law and my newborn son. I didn't even have a postpartum confinement period before I started managing household chores. Later, it left me with a host of chronic ailments, no matter how hard or difficult it was. I never once blamed him harshly, helplessly. I looked at my son. He was flesh of my flesh. He was also the only connection between me and this family. I can't believe he would betray me too. I crouched down and reached out to pull him tightly into my arms, but to my surprise, he pushed me away abruptly. Don't touch me, you bad woman. I want Aunt Young to be my mom. At that moment, my heart turned to ashes. Kira Young's triumphant gaze was like a sharp blade, slicing me apart piece by piece. So, after all these years, it turns out my devotion was misplaced. My mother-in-law never accepted me from the start, and the person lying beside me shared my bed but not my dreams. Even the flesh of my womb, carried for 10 months, could betray me. Dream on. I practically screamed those 2 words hysterically. I couldn't accept that I'd lost so completely. I wished I could drag them all down with me in destruction, but I never expected that they had already prepared a backup plan. I had planned to make a scene at their workplace, to ruin the reputations of that despicable couple, Zayn Jean and Kira Young. Yet before I could even step out of the house, my husband and son forcibly sent me to a mental hospital, a sharp pain in the back of my neck, and then I lost consciousness. When I woke up again, I desperately tried to prove that I wasn't insane, yet what I received was even more inhuman abuse. A once normal person, now strapped to a hospital bed. Electric shocks sent convulsions through my body, foam spewing from my mouth, until my brain completely lost consciousness. Physical pain is secondary, the mental torment is the cruelest. I was locked in a pitch-black room, with no one to hear my cries for help, no response from heaven or earth. That sense of helplessness and despair penetrated to the very marrow of my bones. Even in this new life, the mere thought of it still sends chills down my spine. No one believed what I said. The more I struggled and resisted, the more they said I was seriously ill. To keep me quiet, they kept increasing the dosage of medication. My mind became a complete mess, lost in sleep every day, unable to distinguish between day and night. Finally, I had a mental breakdown and became a true mental patient. Later, even though I was very obedient and took my medication dutifully, yet, I never managed to leave this place until my death. My physical condition also deteriorated day by day. And Zayn Jean and his son never came to see me, not even once. Eventually, due to prolonged use of large amounts of medication, my organs failed, and I died in the hospital. At that time, Zayn Jean was busy preparing for his wedding with his white moonlight. He had no time at all to handle my funeral arrangements. Just left the hospital with a single sentence, "You handle it," then became completely unreachable. Left with no choice, the hospital had to hastily proceed with cremation. The ashes were casually scattered into a filthy ditch. How could I not hate? I wish I could drag that despicable couple down to hell with me. In this life, I won't repeat the same mistakes. Fortunately, I was reborn in the year when college entrance exams were reinstated. There's still time to change everything, this time. I'm not just choosing to take the college entrance exam, I'm also going to give it my all to get into a top university. I want to stand at the pinnacle of the pyramid, firmly grasp my own destiny, and hold the power of speech, and take brutal revenge on that despicable couple. After calculating the time, Mother Zhong broke her leg 1 month before my college entrance exam. Now, there are still 6 months left until the college entrance exam. I need to leave the Zhong family first. Then break off the engagement with Zane Zhong, to completely escape this hellish family. With this in mind, I confronted Mother Zhong that very night. Since she looks down on me the most, then I'll start with her. Auntie, I'm moving out, Mrs. Zhong's eyes flickered with surprise upon hearing this. Clearly not expecting me to take the initiative to move out. Perhaps she always thought that as an orphan girl, I would shamelessly cling to marrying her son. So when Zhong's father took me to live with them, she never once gave me a friendly look. Naturally, all the dirty and heavy chores at home were dumped on me. As soon as Zhong's father came home, she would hypocritically say, "You see, this child insists on doing all the housework. I've told them to treat this place as their own home. Heh, this kid is just so well behaved." How could Zhong's father, a grown man, understand those tricks of women? By then, I was no longer a child, naturally. I understood she was one person in public and another behind closed doors, all just to prevent me from complaining to Zhong's father. As a lone orphan girl, I could only resign myself to adversity. Looking back now, I realize I was too young and naive back then. Mistakenly regarding the Zhong family as my support led me to a fate where I couldn't even find a place to be buried after death. Little did I know that precisely because you have no support and don't bare your claws, others would feel free to treat you with contempt. Reborn and back, I already know the outcomes of many things in advance. Why not take the chance to escape before getting trapped? What are you waiting for? As long as I leave this house and stay away from that scumbag Zane Zhong, maybe my life can turn around against all odds. After my parents passed away, they left me some money. It's more than enough to rent a place outside. I was already a good student. Even while working like a slave for the Zhong family, my grades didn't suffer. In this life, without external interference, I believe getting into college won't be difficult for me. Once I'm in college, I can live on campus and completely escape the misfortunes of my past life. As expected, Mother Zhong didn't try to keep me, nor did she ask if I'd found a place to stay. She got straight to the point. "When do you plan to move out? The sooner, the better." I was afraid of long nights and many dreams, so I rented a room near the school in advance, and I packed up my luggage in the past 2 days. I didn't have much to begin with, so it was done quickly. I just needed to clarify things with the Zhong family before I could leave. She saw that I wasn't playing hard to get, and then hypocritically said, "It's not that Auntie doesn't want you to stay. Although you and Zane are engaged, you're not married yet." Living under the same roof without a proper title would indeed invite gossip. Mrs. Zhong simply didn't dare to openly defy Mr. Zhong's wishes, so she resorted to making things difficult for me to force me to back down on my own. This way, even if Mr. Zhong had complaints, he wouldn't blame her for it. Having lived 2 lives, I've long seen through her little schemes. Besides, Zane Zhong doesn't like me either. Why should I force it? Auntie, I don't like Zane, so I don't want to hold him back. I plan to break off the engagement with him. The gratitude between our parents' generation shouldn't be repaid by sacrificing their children's marriage. Hearing this, Mother Zhong was even more delighted. In her eyes, her son deserved nothing less than a celestial maiden from the heavens. Not to mention, I was an orphan girl. Being with her son would offer him no future advantages whatsoever. If not for fear of public criticism, she wouldn't have given me a second glance. I offered to break off the engagement, so their family wouldn't have to bear the stigma of being ungrateful. Auntie always knew you were a sensible and reasonable child. Since that's the case, let's proceed as you suggested. I immediately took out the token the Zhong family had given me during the betrothal and exchanged it for my family's ancestral jade pendant. Mr. Jong was momentarily taken aback when he suddenly saw me carrying my luggage. "We've been living just fine, what's all this about?" He immediately thought of something and turned to scold Mother Zhong. "Are you trying to drive her away?" It seems he was well aware that Mother Zhong didn't like me. To avoid complicating matters, I quickly said, "I'm the one who wants to move out, Uncle. I'm very grateful for your care, but I'm an adult now and can take care of myself. Moreover, I specifically chose a place closer to school to prepare for the college entrance exams." Hearing this, Mr. Zhong's doubts were somewhat alleviated. "If you need anything, just let the family know, and we'll have Zane bring it to you." Mr. Zhong is indeed honest and kind-hearted, but unfortunately, good people don't always get the rewards they deserve. Thinking of how he would later pass away from stomach cancer, my heart ached. "Uncle, you must eat on time from now on, and never let illness take root. I am not a cold-blooded or heartless person. I won't vent my anger on the innocent." Father Zhong quickly nodded in agreement. "Ah, good child." I clearly saw the flicker in his eyes, and my heart was filled with mixed emotions. After bidding farewell to the Zhong family, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. For those few months, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my studies without distraction, turning a deaf ear to all worldly affairs. In the previous life, because of our engagement, Zane Zhong and Kira Yang still showed some restraint. In this life, after I called off the engagement early, he actually became so carried away that he started an early romance with Kira Yang at school. They were caught by the school, but fortunately, Kira Yang didn't betray him to save herself. Otherwise, Zane Zhong might have been charged with hooliganism and ended up sewing in prison. You should know that those years were during a severe crackdown, where the crime of hooliganism could result in a few years in prison at the least, or execution at the worst. Kira Yang said the two were willing, so the school didn't report it to the police, but because it caused a bad influence, they were still expelled. This made Zane Zhong even more convinced that Kira Yang was his true love, and the two were determined to stay together no matter what. However, Kira Yang's parents were not having it this time. They stormed into the Zhong family's home, demanding, "Your son has ruined our daughter's reputation. Now you must get them officially married. Nothing should be missing. The betrothal gifts and the 3 rounds and 1 sound must all be provided." Zhong's mother had originally hoped her son would succeed, expecting him to get into university. Instead, he was expelled from school because of his early romance. Just couldn't find someone to vent my anger on. Now, to make matters worse, the Yang family is making exorbitant demands. Actually asking for so much, they're simply robbers. The more Mrs. Zhong thought about it, the angrier she became, and she blurted out, "Oh, my son's life is so bitter, a fine college student with such potential, just ruined like this." Mrs. Zhong wailed and beat her chest in grief, wishing she could tear Kira Yang apart. "If you say that, I won't accept it. It takes 2 to tango. Besides, in this matter, my daughter is the victim, isn't she? My son is very honest. He even blushes when talking to girls. It must have been your daughter who seduced him." "Fine, we haven't even accused your son of being a hooligan, and here you are turning the tables on us." Finally, the verbal conflict between the two escalated into a physical altercation. They ended up wrestling with each other. During the scuffle, Mother Zhong accidentally broke her leg. In the end, despite all the fighting, they still had to sit down and talk. Mr. Zhong agreed to their marriage, but Mrs. Zhong absolutely refused to give the betrothal gifts. Because Kira Yang has 2 younger brothers, she feared that after giving these gifts, not a single penny would be returned as dowry. How ridiculous. It turns out Kira Yang wasn't even good enough for her. She is never satisfied. Zhong's mother knew that Kira Yang had her son wrapped around her finger. In this day and age, if a young girl's reputation is ruined, who would dare to take her? Moreover, the two had already tasted the forbidden fruit, and Kira Yang ended up pregnant unexpectedly. If this entanglement continued, her pregnancy would soon become obvious. The Yang family had no choice but to compromise. If it weren't for Mr. Zhong's father explaining to me, I wouldn't have known I missed such a big drama. Mr. Zhong's father looked troubled. "Look at how this has turned out. Originally, you were supposed to be our future daughter-in-law. It's our family that wronged you." He still has a conscience, this man. It's clear that he really wants to repay his father for saving his life but can't think of a better way, and just when my son had to go and cause such trouble, he had no choice but to come and explain it to me. Uncle, please don't say that. We live in a new society now, where arranged marriages are illegal, and forced matches never bring happiness. Since the two of them love each other, you should support them. My child, our family has wronged you. Don't worry, even if you can't become our daughter-in-law, you'll always be like a daughter to this family. If you ever need anything in the future, just tell me, and I'll help you however I can. I believe Mr. Jong's father was speaking from the heart. But I simply don't want to have any further involvement with their family. Seeing that I had no objections, Mr. Jong's father finally left with peace of mind. After he left, I noticed that at some point, Mr. Jong's father had left behind an envelope. It contained 300 yuan. I suppose he wanted to compensate me, and without a second thought, I accepted it. After all, in my previous life, I died so unjustly. When I married Zane Jean, not only did his family not give a single cent for the bride price. Later, he went to great lengths to swindle away the money my parents left me, using it to support Kira Young's lifestyle. In this lifetime, it's only fair to collect a little interest. Perhaps because of my rebirth, many things have already changed in this life. Originally, it was me who gave up the college entrance exams to take care of Zhong's mother after she broke her leg. In this life, Kira Young had to hastily arrange her wedding and then went to take care of her mother-in-law while heavily pregnant. Zane Jean, having been expelled from school, spent his days idle, growing increasingly manic and restless. The two often quarreled fiercely over the slightest matters. But now, these are no longer things I should be concerned about. The day of the college entrance exam is approaching soon. I walked into the examination hall with full confidence, feeling as if university was already waving at me. At this time, Kira Young had only taken care of Zhong's mother for less than a month before she started to feel impatient. No one remains a dutiful child by the sickbed for long, let alone a daughter-in-law who hasn't even officially married into the family, plus pregnancy. Hormonal imbalance. She couldn't help complaining in front of Zane Jean. Tell me, your family has raised Luna Su for so long, and now that your mom's leg is broken, she doesn't even come to visit. What an ungrateful wretch. Even if the engagement with you is called off, she's still your family's adopted daughter. Couldn't she come take care of her for a while? The more Kira Young spoke, the angrier she became, completely forgetting how Mrs. Zhong's leg got broken in the first place. Zane Jean has been spoiled by his parents since childhood. Asking him to take care of Mother Zhong is even more impossible. He lacks responsibility and, on the contrary, finds Kira Young's words quite reasonable. The two of them immediately decided to go find me. No matter what, you're dragging me into this. Caught off guard by their sudden visit, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Luna Su, do you have any conscience? You've eaten at our place and lived with us for so long. And now that my mom needs care, you're hiding far away. That's right, even though you broke off the engagement with Zane, his parents treated you well. Shouldn't you at least go see them? I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Being good to me means asking me to give up my own future, to slave away for their family, only to be discarded like a worn-out rag when I'm old. Later, when Mother Zhong became bedridden with paralysis, she still needed someone to take care of her for the rest of her life. Isn't this exactly what Kira Young has been dying to get? Shouldn't I just let her have it? She's only been serving for a few days and already can't take it, still trying to guilt-trip me. Her schemes are practically slapping me in the face. It's a pity I'm now soberly aware of reality. So it was me who broke Aunt Zhong's leg. Caught off guard by my counterattack, Kira Young was instantly left speechless. I had no intention of letting her off so easily and continued my full frontal assault. You're married to Zane Jean now, shouldn't you? As the daughter-in-law, be by her bedside fulfilling your filial duties instead of coming here to confront me. How come you're so harsh with your words? Luna Su, Zane Jean, protective of his wife, blurted out without thinking, if you find my words unpleasant, why bother coming to provoke me in the first place? How did you become so vicious now? Zane Jean and Kira Young were left speechless after I effortlessly shut them down. Start personal attacks. Zane Jean, shame on you for being a man. Since we've both called off the engagement, let's not keep any lingering ties. Why are you suddenly remembering my good qualities now? Asking me to visit your mom is just an excuse. What you really want is for me to go and serve people." I straightforwardly exposed their facade. This left Zain Jean somewhat embarrassed, and he quickly tried to backtrack. "That's not what I meant, it's just that you've been gone for so long, and the family misses you." "Oh, give me a break." For the first time, Zain Jean realized I had a feisty side to me. This made him feel somewhat unfamiliar. Kira Young and Zain Jean got a cold shoulder from me. Trembling with anger, upon returning home, Zhong's mother, assuming they had gone out on a date, began cursing. "Kira Young, have you no shame? Can't you even bear to be apart from my son for a moment? You're here to take care of the patient, not to indulge in romance." Kira Young was already seething with anger, and after days of attending to Zhong's mother, she had long lost her patience. She immediately flared up like a lit firecracker. "Mom, go ask around. Which pregnant daughter-in-law has to serve her mother-in-law like this? Can't I even go out for some fresh air? You're the one acting aggrieved now, Mrs." Zhong was so furious she actually jumped up from the bed. "How did my leg get broken? It's all because of you. You're nothing but a jinx. You brought us nothing but bad luck even before marrying into this family. If you hadn't seduced my son, would he have been expelled from school? If it weren't for you, would Luna Sue have broken off the engagement with him? If it were Luna Sue, she wouldn't be like you, complaining about every little task. Anyone would think I'm some evil mother-in-law mistreating you." Kira Young was completely stunned. It turned out Mother Zhong's legs had long since healed, yet she still lay in bed all day pretending to be sick. "I only found out later from others. In my past life, it's highly likely that Zhong's mother was feigning illness all along, trapping me for a lifetime, making me willingly slave away for their family like a beast of burden. When it comes down to it, I was just a naive, poor pushover, allowing myself to be manipulated time and again." "Zain, your mother was actually pretending to be sick." Now even Zain Jean couldn't defend his mother anymore. "Mom, how could you do this? This is just too much." Who would have thought that upon being exposed, Mother Zhong, unable to keep up the act, started playing the emotional card. "Oh, my life is so bitter. My son forgets his mother as soon as he gets a wife." "Mom, what kind of talk is that? No matter what you become, I would never abandon you." Zain Jean went through great lengths to finally calm both women down. However, within just 2 days, Mrs. Zhong got into another argument with Kira Yang over a trivial matter. Zain Jean couldn't bear the constant disturbance and found himself reluctant to go home every day. Soon, the college entrance exam results were released. To my surprise, my score was several dozen points above the first-tier cutoff. On the day of filling out college applications, I decisively chose a university in Yucheng, not only because this city is thousands of miles away from Cloud City, ensuring that Zain Jean and I would never cross paths again in this lifetime, but also because I knew this place would remain at the forefront of reform and opening up for decades to come. I was determined not only to change my fate through knowledge but also to seize every opportunity that came my way. As expected, I was admitted. I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my professional studies and received scholarships every year. During university, I obtained several research patents. Combined with work-study programs, every day of mine was incredibly fulfilling. The development here is advancing rapidly, attracting people from all over the country to dive into business opportunities. Due to the language barrier, many misunderstandings and losses occurred. Therefore, I began offering translation services to facilitate communication for the parties involved. This allowed me to earn service fees. This was already quite advanced for its time. Although the fees were low, the sheer number of customers made up for it. Soon, I earned my first pot of gold in life. Then, I used that money to rent a storefront and opened a fast food restaurant, specializing in serving those from out of town, while also taking on some translation work on the side. At that time, Zain Jean and Kira Yang had a daughter. Soon after getting married, Zhong's mother felt that she hadn't borne a son for the Zhong family and began urging her to have a second child even before she finished her postpartum confinement. Through Zhong's father's connections, Zain Jean was helped to find a job at a chemical plant. However, He was accustomed to a life of comfort and found the work at the chemical factory dirty and exhausting. He slacked off every day, working only sporadically. The unit's leadership had long been dissatisfied with him. On top of that, every time he returned home, he was met with the constant quarrels between Kira Yang and Zhong's mother. He was caught in the middle and got it from both sides. In a daze, he messed up the proportions in the fertilizer formula. This caused significant losses for the chemical plant. Now, no matter what, the company leadership couldn't keep him on. So, seeing others make a fortune by going into business, Zhang Zhon stole his father's savings. With a few friends, he bought a train ticket and headed to Yucheng, but they had no clue where to start. Completely clueless like headless flies, before even reaching Yucheng, they were targeted by pickpockets. My money was stolen. The companions immediately lost their nerve. Our capital has been stolen. How can we still do business? That's right, let's just go back. But Zhang Zhon absolutely refused to go back. Go back if you want, but I'd rather die out here than return without making money. Helplessly, the others had no choice but to part ways with him. However, after finally arriving in Yucheng, Zhang Zhon listened to the locals chattering away in an incomprehensible dialect. Everything went dark before his eyes, and he was completely dumbfounded. Fortunately, the money on him was stored separately, so some of it hadn't been stolen. As soon as he got off the train, he was cornered in an alley by a group of local thugs. Just when everything seemed fine, the unexpected happened. Zhang Zhon refused to hand over the remaining money, even at the cost of his life, and ended up being brutally beaten. He was left in a pile of garbage. When he woke up, all his clothes had been stripped off. He had no choice but to rummage through the garbage pile and find a few tattered woven bags to wrap around himself. At this point, with his stomach growling from hunger, he could only beg along the streets. By chance, he ended up at the entrance of my restaurant. That day, I happened to be out seeing off a guest. Coincidentally, Zhang Zhon spotted me and could hardly believe his eyes. "Luna Su, is it really you?" I looked puzzled at the beggar before me, taking a long moment to recognize his features. "It's you." After a closer look, I finally recognized him. It was actually Zhang Zhon. You must know, Zhang Zhon used to be quite handsome, tall with long legs, standing out in a crowd like a crane among chickens. Otherwise, Kira Yang wouldn't have been so devoted to him. Perhaps noticing my astonishment, Zhang Zhon quickly rubbed his face and tousled his messy hair. "Ah, it's a long story. Could you spare me a bite to eat first?" It was clear he was starving. Seeing him in such a pitiful state, I couldn't bring myself to kick him while he was down, so I had the staff make him a bowl of knife-cut noodles. Zhang Zhon wolfed down his food before finally remembering to ask me, "Didn't you go off to college?" I smiled faintly. Of course he wouldn't care where I went to college. My school is right here in Yucheng. Zhang Zhon let out an "oh," still finding it hard to believe. I thought the two of us would never cross paths again in this lifetime. Yet by some twist of fate, we met once more. What kind of cursed fate is this? "So, are you out here working part-time to support your studies?" You could say that. I can't be bothered to explain so much to him. I just want to end the conversation as soon as possible. "Boss, that table of customers hasn't paid yet. The shop is understaffed, so when it gets busy, I have to act as a waiter." Zhang Zhon was shocked to hear someone call me boss, his mouth hanging open in surprise. Soon, he began to lose confidence in himself. Back in the days when he lived with the Zhong family, he always held himself high and mighty. He used to ignore me, but now he can't even reach my level. Zhang Zhon felt a mix of emotions, thinking about the mess at home and comparing it to how well I'm thriving here now. Everything feels like a dream. "Luna Su, you've changed, have I?" I chuckled. "Maybe you never truly knew me in the first place." With that, I excused myself, saying I had other things to attend to, and left. I don't want to make any comments or lead any discussion about his trip. Actually, I had long let go of the past after leaving. I asked the shop assistant to give him some travel money. After that, I never saw him again. 2 years later, I returned to my hometown to pay respects to my parents. I heard from a high school classmate about Zhang Zhon. After returning from Yucheng, Zhang Zhon's mother was furious that he had been robbed of all his money and even harmed. She directed all her anger toward his friends. He ran to their doorstep and hurled abuse for several days before finally stopping. From then on, Zain Zhon completely lost all his friends. On top of that, Kira Yang gave birth to another girl, and Zhong's mother cursed her as a jinx, saying whoever married her would be doomed, according to Zain Zhon. After I graduated from Yucheng University, I became a boss. Mrs. Zhong was filled with regret. Look at Luna Su, she's a big boss now, and you can't even give birth to a son. What use are you to our Zhong family? All you do all day is mess around with men. What else can you do? Mrs. Zhong grew more and more worked up. If I'd known earlier, I never should have let Zain marry you. Every time we fight, it's always like this. He's long been fed up to death, can't produce a son and you blame me. Isn't it your son who's useless? Kira Yang, look at yourself now. You're nothing but a shrew, not even worth one of Luna Su's toes. Hearing this, Kira Yang exploded like a firecracker. Are you still thinking about that Luna Su? Every day when returning home, Mrs. Zhong and Kira Yang would argue so fiercely it would turn the house upside down. Zain Zhon didn't even want to go home. Thinking about his current situation, Zain Zhon had regretted more than once. If he had married me back then, wouldn't all these troubles have been avoided? Life has ultimately shed the filter of the white moonlight, he said angrily. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Are you happy now? Kira Yang screamed hysterically. Fine, don't you dare regret it. With that, she picked up their few-month-old second child and stormed out the door. I don't know who has a big mouth, but the news of my return to Yuncheng got out. Zain Zhon didn't go after Kira Yang. Instead, he blocked me at the guesthouse entrance. Looking at me in my most fashionable wool coat, knee-high boots, with big wavy hair, red lips, and white teeth, I looked like a star straight out of a poster. Zain Zhon stood there stunned for a long time before finally speaking slowly. Luna Su, you've changed so much I hardly recognize you. About what happened in Yucheng last time. Thank you, hehe, I wouldn't leave even a stranger to die, so no need to thank me. Luna, do you still hate me for abandoning you and marrying Kira Yang? He. You're overthinking it. I was the one who didn't want you anymore. It has nothing to do with who you married. My words left Zain Zhon somewhat ashamed. Luna Su, I heard you're still single. If you're willing, I can divorce her immediately. I never would have thought that Zain Zhon actually had this in mind. He thought I was single because I couldn't forget him. What a joke. I just won't easily entrust my future to a man again, with just a change in roles and stance. He's so quick to give up on Kira Yang, not because he loved me so much, but because from beginning to end, he only loved himself, even at the cost of abandoning his wife and children. In my past life, I saw right through him. Zain Zhon was, from start to finish, an utterly selfish person. Alright. I see now why you argue with me every day. Your heart hasn't been with me and the kids for a long time. Before I could say anything, Zain Zhon was caught red-handed by Kira Yang. She held the youngest in her arms while pulling the older one by the hand. She was the spitting image of a Qin Xianglian. I originally wanted to go back to my parents' home, but I regretted it as soon as I stepped out the door. Ever since she married Zain Zhon, nothing has gone smoothly at home. Her mother-in-law keeps a tight grip on the money, and her own family can't get any benefits from her. Now she's like Zhu Baji looking in the mirror. Neither side sees her as one of their own. Thinking of returning to her parents' home, she would only face heartless mockery. Kira Yang turned around and came back, then she saw Zain Zhon also leaving the house, so she quietly followed behind him. Then they followed to the guesthouse entrance and overheard these words. Kira Yang started cursing vehemently without hesitation. And her hands weren't idle either, flailing wildly like a madwoman, leaving Zain Zhon battered and bleeding. The two children stood by helplessly, wailing loudly in distress. Zain Zhon couldn't take it anymore. Feeling that Kira Yang had utterly humiliated him, he slapped her across the face. The white moonlight eventually turned into a spoiled grain of rice stuck on clothes. How dare you hit me? I'll fight you to the death. Kira Yang, unwilling to suffer a loss, immediately unleashed her shrewish skills. The two quickly became entangled in a brawl. Kira Yang, you're nothing but a damn shrew. I must have been blind to marry a woman like you. You want to dump me? Not so easy, you heartless scoundrel. Just as I feared, the onlookers quickly formed a circle around the two of them. I hurriedly put on my sunglasses and swiftly left the crime scene. Since then, Zane Zhon and Kira Yang have been constantly at each other's throats, causing chaos. To secure her position in the Zhong family, Kira Yang kept trying to bear a son, but the more she wanted it, the less it happened. After giving birth to 5 daughters, she finally gave up in despair. Zane Zhon felt he had no son and no motivation to strive. His temper grew worse each day. He was lazy and gluttonous, spending his time either drinking or gambling. If Kira Yang dared to say even one more word, she would be met with punches and kicks. Mother Zhong was even more harsh and ungrateful toward her, either blaming her for failing to bear a son or urging her son to divorce and remarry. Thus, the conflict between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law intensified day by day. Finally, after a major quarrel, Mother Zhong was so enraged that she suddenly suffered a cerebral hemorrhage and was left paralyzed in bed. From then on, Kira Yang had no choice but to care for 5 young children while also tending to a bedridden mother-in-law. Before even reaching the age of 30, she became worn out from overwork and chronic malnutrition. She looks as worn out as a 50-year-old. But Zane Zhon, accustomed to a life of ease, simply doesn't want to go home and face the mess. Apart from eating, sleeping, and going home, he practically lives in the mahjong parlor. A few times, Kira Yang stormed into the mahjong parlor with a bunch of kids. They overturned the mahjong table, and the two began brawling in front of everyone. The scene quickly spiraled out of control. The 5 children burst into terrified wails, making even the onlookers feel a pang of sympathy. This kind of life continued for over a decade until one day, Zane Zhon left home and never returned, and I never returned to Yuncheng again. I completely severed all ties with that place. I even took my parents' memorial tablets with me to Yuncheng. During those years, I focused solely on my career, from a tiny hole-in-the-wall eatery. It grew into a chain of fast food restaurants and eventually established a catering company. Because I once met Zane Zhon in the shop, I handed over the catering company to professional managers to run. By this time, it was already the 1990s. According to the information from my previous life, I invested the funds I had on hand into the stock market and made a hefty profit. Then a technology company was established, recruiting a group of tech talents, fully devoted to the field of technology. With memories from my past life, the research projects I invested in were all highly profitable, and each one stood at the forefront of the industry. Gradually, my tech company caught the attention of the authorities and was directly incorporated into the military-industrial sector. That day, Zane Zhon somehow found my company through unknown channels. Coincidentally, military representative Duan Changye came to pick me up for negotiations, watching me, poised and sharp, chatting and laughing effortlessly with the military representative. Finally, I boarded the military's red flag car. Zane Zhon's legs seemed nailed to the ground. At that moment, Zane Zhon finally realized we were worlds apart. He had missed the best woman of his life. It turned out that the military had noticed my company several years earlier. They conducted thorough investigations and political vetting before taking this step. With no more attachments holding me back, after negotiations, I resolutely joined the national team. From then on, I lived incognito, dedicating the rest of my life to the country. Several critical experiments were on the verge of life and death, yet I persisted in completing them. In this lifetime, I no longer confine myself to trivial emotions and affections, but instead merge my destiny with the great century-long transformation of our nation. I have never felt more strongly that I, too, am of value. Though I may die 9 times, I shall never regret it. Back then, the military representative Duan Changye became my close comrade in arms. Through long-term cooperation and communication, we discovered we shared many common topics and common goals to strive for. Thus, several years later, we naturally came together. The organization was more than happy to see it succeed. Our story became a celebrated tale in the military. Years later, seeing many technological projects applied to national defense, the strength of our motherland grew ever stronger. We confidently passed the baton into the hands of the younger generation. That year, at the invitation of my alma mater, Duan Changye accompanied me back to my hometown. The provincial governor and the mayor of Yuncheng personally joined us as we revisited the old place. Looking again at the place where I once lived, tall buildings had risen from the ground, the high school I once attended had moved to a new campus, and the sound of students reading aloud made it feel like a lifetime ago. That day, we had just stepped out of the school. Suddenly, a shabbily dressed, elderly-looking old man rushed toward us. The security personnel immediately restrained him. Soon, an old woman approached with an apologetic expression, whispering breathlessly, "I'm sorry, he's not in his right mind, just senile." The child complained as they dragged the person away, "Did you forget to take your medicine on time again? I told you to send him to a psychiatric hospital, but you refused no matter what. Just the day before yesterday, he hit someone, and now he's causing trouble here again. If he ends up hurting these people, our whole family will be ruined." The old woman cried helplessly, "What else can I do? Do you think staying in the hospital is free?" The moment the old man heard about being sent to the hospital, he immediately had a manic episode. "I won't go to the hospital, I'm not sick. You all want to harm me, you just don't want me to go find Luna Su." Faintly, I heard someone calling my name. I couldn't help but look around. Only then did I see clearly. This old man was actually Zane Zhon. That old woman turned out to be Wang Kira, standing right before me. I failed to recognize an old acquaintance. I don't know how Zane Zhon recognized me, but he stubbornly refused to leave. I clearly saw in his eyes as he looked back at me, filled with endless regret and unwillingness. "What's wrong?" Duan Changye beside me noticed my unusual behavior and asked with concern. I turned to look at him and smiled slightly. "Nothing, I just thought I saw an old acquaintance. But it's not important."